Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shared Screens Media Club. Today, I'm joined by Chance and Chris, and we are talking about E3 because E3 has officially died this past week.
E3 has been canceled. You know, we found the texts. It's over. the allegations have come out. It's not gonna end well.
No, it's but
I got nothing to add. That's funny as hell.
Instead of mourning E3 though, we're doing a celebration of life. We're here to remember the good times that E3 brought us.
Oh, I was ready to mourn. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm sad.
Yeah, I think a celebration is good. A celebration of life is good because while we're celebrating a life, Geoff Keighley is dancing on a grave. So I do think that there needs to be kind of like a cosmic balancing that needs to happen.
Well, think of that. Was it the meme of was it Grant Gustin doing the piece in front of the grave?
Yep.
That's Geoff Keighley.
Yep, 100%. He's like, y'all didn't take me serious, and now you have to.
Yeah, it's like you got no other choices now.
Yeah,
it's just me.
So I do want to pose a question real quick to kind of get the creative juices flowing. Does this make Geoff Keighley the king of video games?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No question
Okay.
about it.
Just wanted to throw that out there because
Geoff Keighley is Mr. Video Games now. Like, yeah, he's the man.
I mean, like he was before. Now it's official. Yeah. Because E3's dead.
He's like everybody's cool gaming older brother that like shows them the good shit that they should be paying attention to. That's kind of how I felt about him the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's like visiting your cousin. He's like, yo, you ever heard of Grand Theft Auto?
Yep.
And you're like 10. And
you don't even know what a prostitute is yet.
Yeah.
Sorry to derail you, Alec. Continue.
Oh yeah, no worries. So yeah, just we're gonna be going through reminiscing about some of our favorite E3 memories. So just to start it off, I think something that's kind of a collective memory of ours is just our first E3 or reacting or making content around E3. This was back when we were at Waypoint still, and kind of coming off a bit of a trepidatious time for us when the whole Kind of Funny or like the Best Friends Creator Network, whatever it was called, was kind of imploding on itself.
It was like called the Kind of Funny Creators Network, I think, which I was like, don't use their name, bro.
Yeah.
It's what a weird
like the Best Friends. I think it was whatever it was.
Whatever it was, it was a bad idea and it didn't turn out well.
To affiliate with
it was
them.
pretty cringe, the naming.
And believe me, that we've talked about that plenty of times, but
lessons learned.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of lessons learned, but we bounced back pretty quickly and covered E3 ourselves. And something that's really cool is that we didn't do any reaction content before then, so this was our first time doing reaction was an E3. So it was 3-4 days of just absolute hell recording and editing and trying to get it up as quick, which I think that's when I'm like, we need another editor, and that's when we brought Chance on.
100%.
I do kind of want to touch on that though, as to like why that was so special. It at least for me, but also for us, is I think there's personally kind of two main points. One is that we were coming right off of the Best Friends Creator whatever thing. And that was our E3 plan when that was originally pitched to us. It was a small group of people that were just going to kind of collaborate together to do some E3 coverage, and we're like, yeah. And then it grew way too big, and there we were like a week out from E3, having just left this thing, and we were like, well, what do we do now? And we all just kind of decided, well, let's just do it ourselves anyway. And we got some other friends to come in with us, like Carlos and Caesar. I remember off the top of my head. There was
Paul,
and that's right, Paul. Yeah, it was so fast, I don't remember all of it. So that it was just like suddenly being like, all right, well, let's just do it, and having an unbelievable amount of work across like 3 or 4 days of reacting to every single conference. Yeah, we reacted to every single conference. We edited all the videos to get them out like hours after they were done. We made social clips of a couple things. Some of those are still like some of our most watched content ever, which was really, really awesome. We got tons and tons of engagement and a lot of like new followers who I think are still like have stuck around since then.
But Far Cry
one was massive.
That blew up. Like that was, I think, our first video to kind of, I don't say viral, I guess, in a way. Not necessarily like, millions and millions, but it was our first one to break 1,000.
I think it was our break. Yeah, it was the first one to break 1,000, and then also Austin. No, Austin's Fallout one was next year, right? It was the year after.
No, I think that was the same year. Yeah.
Was that the same year? Because that one got really big too. Just with all of the other Fallout weirdos.
To kind of wrap up this,
I don't like those games very much, but
I do
for me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I do want to like just kind of while we were still talking about the things that had gone awry and everything's up in the air. That is like when you guys reached out to me, because I had also joined. I was separate. I was kind of doing my own thing at that time, and I had joined the network because I knew Chris and Alec and Waypoint at the time had joined. And then a bunch of stuff started, it started lighting itself on fire, and I reached out to Chris and I was like, yo, dude, we need to bounce. And he's like, oh, we already did. And I was like, okay,
I was like, yeah, we're out, dude. We're not sticking around for
the
this.
first group to leave.
Yeah, 100%. And like put your
and boy, did we start a domino effect. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know, Chris had mentioned this, but it was initially pitched as, I think it was maybe like 5, maybe 6 like smaller content creator groups.
It was other channels like us who had like 4 or 5 members apiece, who all wanted to do like E3 coverage, just like reaction content or podcasts and stuff around that. So the idea was that all of the like these 4 or 5 different groups, like 5 or 6 including us, would just kind of like guest on each other's stuff like throughout the weekend, and we'd all kind of like just collaborate rather than everyone having all of their own cast. And if I remember correctly, I think there was like a central like Twitter account for this thing that ended up like putting out like this, like, hey, if you want to do E3 stuff, come with us. And then suddenly there were hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And some problematic shit came up, and we went, see you later.
See you next Tuesday.
Yeah, we're like, no, we're out. We're not affiliated with this anymore. Yeah.
I remember like my dreams of working that E3 and kind of like getting one under my belt were quickly dashed. And then you guys were like, hey, we got a place for you. Come react to the Devolver Digital showcase. And I have not had that many technical difficulties on a recording before or since. It was just like my mic and my headphones weren't working.
I remember that.
I was like, these motherfuckers are never going to want to work with me again. And then like the next week, Chris is like, hey, you want to join? And I was like, what the fuck?
That's so funny.
That was just like the best, like
your video like popped in like halfway through the thing when it was like
the
reaction was pretty much done.
Yeah.
The conference was over and Chase's video was finally working.
Yeah, it was. Oh my god, it was so. Discord was working fine. I joined the call, nothing worked. I had to like open it on a browser. But yeah, that was. I still think about that every once in a while, and I just have to chuckle and laugh because shit's fun.
How far we've come.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you phrased it that way though too, of just like wanting to get an E3 under your belt. I'm gonna take you back to little 13-year-old Chris, right? Who was starting to really like get into like just like the passion of video games, right? Like it wasn't just a thing I did anymore. It's something that I was really like starting to get more into, like how they were made, like the creative process behind it. I wanted to. I was eating up as much as I could. It was before I knew I had ADHD and I was hyper focusing. But like, I don't remember what issue it was or even what games were there, or even what year it is. But I vividly remember reading, like kind of like discovering what E3 was in Game Informer for the first time, and seeing the crew at Game Informer there talk about it and what the process is like and what the event is, and that was genuinely the moment where I was like, this is what I want to do. Like I want to be involved in the games industry somehow, and I want to attend an E3 and do these things. And I followed E3 very, very closely. And fast forward to Waypoint and post weird creator network thing, and here was this opportunity to do something that I've wanted to do since I was like a kid, basically, right? Was to be able to in some fashion be able to create content and cover the events of E3. And I mean, we sat down, and when I say that we did reactions to everything, we did reactions to everything. It's the most, I think, like consecutive time we've ever put into to content ever. I mean, I was in front of the computer all weekend long, whether it was reacting to or editing stuff. And
that Xbox,
that Monday, the Xbox one was huge. Yeah, because and that was so much fun. Yeah, Josh is
supposed to be all of us on that.
We were all supposed to be there, and we're like 10 minutes out, and like, where where's some other Josh? Like, what's he up to? And so I texted him before the show started. I'm like, dude, we're about to record. The thing's about to start. And that was the one where we got like the Pirates of the Caribbean, Sea of Thieves, and the
party animals.
The party animals. We got the Halo Infinite multiplayer trailer.
Mm-hmm.
We got the Starfield announcement. It was like all of these things. And then like 2 hours after the show, and Josh's like, I just woke up. I forgot to set my alarm.
How our baby boy has grown. How he has grown.
And so it's like, yeah, that weekend is so special. It's like we worked so hard, and that Monday I was just like Alex said, we were just exhausted, right? Like just the sheer amount of time that we put into that. But I can't remember any other time, like since we've started this podcast or since I had like been streaming or anything that we've worked on. I can't remember a thing that I'm still like more proud of to this day, outside of maybe like the rebranding, right? To where it was just like it was wish fulfillment. It was childhood wish fulfillment.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean, to be able to sit down and finally cover an E3. That's such a special thing to me.
Like something that I was just thinking of is just like, so many people want to get into this content creation game, but they never do. But what's something that's so cool is since we started doing reaction content, is I can actually go back and watch exactly how I reacted, how I was feeling, like when something was announced. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, that's just one of those things, like, this is really cool.
To have like a perfect snapshot of something that's just so fun and hype, because E3 was it's always just fun, to be able to sit there and be like, hey, you're about to get announcements for things that are going to be coming out for the next like 2 years. Like E3 is like, this is the future of video games.
E3 is where I found out how much I actually care about ActRaiser. Like that is still one of my favorite things to go back and watch. And just it still puzzles me to this day why I was so hyped.
Dude, you popped off, man. I've never
really liked that game.
I was like, oh my god, he's really an ActRaiser.
Yeah. And then I played it for 20 minutes and never picked it back up again when it came out. One of my favorite games of all time growing up, and I just that's enough.
It's like, yep, still the same game, and then you're like, all right.
I do want to kind of talk about some of the E3s that happened as we're in adulthood and we're kind of doing our daily grind to get to the point where until we all meet each other. And one of those moments, everybody talks about it, is when Keanu motherfucking Reeves comes out onto the screen with his, like, another moment for me that I feel like has slept on is John Bernthal with his dog, it's just such a good boy or good girl, a good dog, and it sits there and it's like for Ghost Recon Wildlands, a game I never played, but it was so hyped to have him there. I do remember like I was at a friend's house, like at a pool party when E3 was going on the year that Keanu happened. And I'm like inside with my phone, like watching E3 while everybody else is like, out at the pool drinking and having burgers. And my wife came in and she's like, what are you doing? And I just looked up and I was like, it's Keanu. And she, like,
E3.
She did not care. She's like, come and socialize. And I was like, you don't understand. This is history right now.
Just like the 1-2 shot of the reveal of Keanu Reeves is in Cyberpunk, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, they got Keanu Reeves!" And then the wall opens, and they're like, "He's E3! Look, oh my god, he's really there!"
And then one of the most memed moments of all time, which just endeared him to everybody for the rest of his existence. The "you're breathtaking" part and his little, the little pointy, so perfect. Protect our baby boy at all costs and his dogs.
Really a gem.
Yeah.
Hopping off of that, because you said you were watching that on your phone. I don't think this one was necessarily at E3, but it's connected to an E3. Because it was a couple months before, and then there's a trailer at E3 that kind of like the part 1, part 2. And that is Smash Brothers Ultimate. So when that was revealed, I
was just about to bring this up, bro. The everyone is here trailer.
So that's the other part. That's the second part. The first part.
Yeah.
First part is when it was revealed. I'm literally like, I had a tire that I need to get fixed. So I'm literally like, driving my spare. I had to get to a discount tire before they closed after work, so I could patch it up, or patch up my actual tire and get it fit. And so I'm literally just sitting there waiting for them while they're doing the work. I'm sitting there on my phone watching this Nintendo Direct, just in a discount tire, just watching it. And then they had this, Splatoon. Right? Yeah, they had the Splatoon 2 at that point, I believe, reveal.
Yeah.
And then they had another kind of, it looked like it was going to be another Splatoon reveal thing. And then you just see the fire in the Inkling's eye, and it's the Smash logo, and then Mario, and then all the other characters kind of in darkness. And it was
So
just
good.
one of the most hyped things. And they fouled that up at E3.
Yeah.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
Same.
Long sleeve shirt, but I am goose pimpled up.
But then at E3, they're just like, they start revealing characters one by one. And then there, I think it was Ice Climbers when they showed that. And then after that, it's just everyone is
here. It was
here.
the final one was Snake.
Yeah.
Because it's like we knew that Smash Ultimate was coming. It had been announced already, and so there's like new Smash Brothers game, which was so wild because it like comparatively between like Melee to Brawl and then Brawl to 4, there's not as much time in between 4 and Ultimate, and so people are like, how many characters are coming back? What's the deal? And there was already like a lot of talk around like the licensing of the third-party characters coming back.
Oh yeah.
And so when Snake
like
showed
the DLC
up,
characters.
Yeah, and Snake and Cloud showed up. Everyone's like, "Oh shit! Everyone is here!" And literally everyone.
They literally go through and show everybody.
All of them. It was so good. I used to work for a company that I will not name because I do not like them. But I was at my computer that day, and I was technically on my lunch break. I had my little salad or whatever, and I was like, I'm gonna watch the Nintendo Direct today. And yeah, they start going through everyone's and I'm just like popping off in the middle of my quiet ass office. I'm like freaking out. One of my coworkers was like, dude, what's happening? I was like, everyone is here. All the characters here. I'm like, they got Young Link, Toon Link, and regular Link in the game. I was like losing my mind.
Mewtwo and Roy are back.
It's going insane. I love it. I love Smash Brothers. That's a top 10 moment for Smash. Look at my tattoo right here.
I think that trailer is an all-time like best E3 trailer.
Oh, easy.
I do have to say that the E3s leading up to the Mass Effect games were always very dear to me because Mass Effect was like my life when I was a kid. That's like kind of when I was in high school was when the second game came out. And I just remember me and a bunch of my buddies getting together to watch E3, and I forget the trailer that popped for Mass Effect the year before it came out. It would have been the following like February that it came out. But just like, you know, the Reapers are coming. It's this trailer, and we like it was just starting to become okay that normal people liked video games, right? Because like in the early 2000s and anytime before that, you were kind of a nerd, like just blanket statement. And I remember looking at like 2 specific friends and watching them freak out at different things. And I was like, I can't believe we were all secret nerds together. And now we live in the day and age that everybody is just letting their nerd flag fly. Yeah, it's just normal now, which it always should have been. But it was just like such a harrowing experience of like, oh my God, like there's an actual community here, because it was always just me and my little brother watching these things. And we had like 1 or 2 friends that were into video games, but usually I just would kind of keep it to myself because, you know, I was raised in a more Western environment with horses and shit. And so them cowboys, they don't like their sex scenes in video games like I did. Let me romance everybody on that Normandy, goddammit.
I'm so glad you mentioned like Smash specifically, because over the course of E3's history, like Nintendo has had some of like the biggest E3 moments, right? Like I explicitly remember the reveal of Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
Where it needs the context of the years before that. Like the prior Zelda game that come out was Wind Waker, and initially at E3 when they'd shown off the GameCube, they had this really sick like Zelda tech demo that was like the Link and Ganon fight from Ocarina of Time, but they were showing off how powerful the GameCube was, and so you got this really detailed fight from Ocarina of Time, and then they're like, all right, and now here's our new Zelda game, and it was Wind Waker, just a completely different art style than everyone was expecting. It's a goated game, but so when Twilight Princess shows up, that first initial trailer, I don't know if it's still on YouTube or not. I highly recommend looking it up because it's very different from the final game too. Like it changed a lot over its development time. But I mean, there's still stories of like people in the crowd like crying over like the reveal of the Twilight Princess because this was the Zelda that was promised, right? Like this is the one that people have been waiting for, like this darker, more adult, like more realistic art style looking Zelda game. But that's also where a lot of like really famous Not the like Nintendo at E3 is where a lot of like really famous like memes come from. Like like the "My Body Is Ready" thing. That was Reggie Fils-Aimé like getting ready to show off Wii Fit on stage. And,
Well,
and so they're like, "You want to step up, Reggie?" He goes, "My body is ready." Like,
and then, well,
like
just speaking of the Twilight Princess, that was the same. That's the one where Miyamoto came out with the Hylian shield,
with the
Master
sword and shield, yeah.
And I guess I actually just learned this going back through and like looking at E3 stuff. That's actually the first E3 where Reggie was at. That's where he was introduced.
I just think of all like the memes that are produced from like the Nintendo
Giant Enemy Crab. You remember that one?
I'm thinking specifically of like the founders of IGN, like Pear and Fran and all them, and they're like cheering for Smash Brothers. I believe it was Melee. And then there's like always just like Danny DeVito playing a GameCube, like on the show floor, like that type of shit. Jonah Hill
like Sean Astin, I think, was there too.
Yeah, like when Lord of the Rings was big, he was playing like fucking Smash Bros or some shit. Like there's just Nintendo always brought the heat.
Smash Bros had a really great one for the press tour of Smash 4 as well, to where they had like an invitational tournament before the game came out, and like the winner got to play Reggie. Like in Smash, or what was I think like Reggie and Hungry Box on Twitter had like fake internet beef or whatever. And so at E3 like in the lead up to E3, in a video like Hungry Box was like, whatever, dude, I'm gonna show you up on stage, and Reggie's like, I'm gonna kick your ass. Like dude was just unhinged in the best way possible, man.
It makes me happy that we have like these awesome men kind of creating culture. We have like Shuhei Yoshida, we have Reggie Fils-Aimé. I mean, Doug Bowser, I feel like has given us enough memes just off of the name alone. But
just
then
because he's named Bowser,
yeah.
Or I mean, for a more recent example, do you guys remember the E3 where both like the PS4 and the Xbox One were revealed?
The most,
and so there was that whole. And so there was
that
whole thing. Yeah, there was that whole thing of not being able to share games on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Anymore. So Xbox made this video like, here's how easy it is to share a video game.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Like, who was that on somebody's phone?
That was Shuhei and who?
I'm sorry, it was the other way around where Xbox couldn't share games and PlayStation was like, here's how you share games on the PlayStation, and just hands it to
Shuhei and what's his name? I'm completely blanking on it.
I want to
Sean Layton.
That might have been it. I was trying to remember who else was it. I just remember Shuhei's the just cheese eating grin. He just was so excited to be there. I don't think he realized like how big of like a left hand it was, because it was just so perfect.
Just on that same note, they undercut the price of the Xbox by $100.
Yeah, they did.
So not only did they have the DRM free or whatever, didn't always have to be connected to the internet. It was $100 cheaper too.
Their whole conference was just taking shots at Xbox
because they were after Xbox too.
Yeah, because they had just
because Xbox had dominated like the whole previous cycle.
Yeah,
like,
they
were like we're coming for it, and then. Yeah, I mean the PlayStation 4 was an incredible console too.
I do like how Xbox tried to reverse Uno that going into PS5 and Xbox Series X, and like it kind of worked, but it didn't because of the clout PlayStation. I feel like PlayStation has a level of clout now from like just having those, slapping them with that. But
speaking of big names with PlayStation, like we got to talk about that 2016 E3 where you get God of War revealed.
Dude.
Spider-Man revealed. You get Days Gone.
Was that Ghost of Tsushima as well, or is that the year after?
I think that was Ghost of Tsushima.
Because that would have been the year that we got the guy playing the flute, right?
No, I think that was the year after. Sorry.
Okay, I'm thinking I want to bring that up in a second.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
But like that God of War, like I just think it's more memorable to me, that trailer specifically, just because that was in the Raising Kratos documentary.
Yeah.
And they talked about that. Like you have the whole orchestra there, and then you just see you're watching Atreus, who we didn't know at the time, going around, like going into this house, and then you see Kratos step out from the darkness, and you're like, oh shit, this is God of War.
I always kind of doubted on God of War because it was always like the Mountain Dew gamer bro game, like growing up, and I didn't have a PlayStation when those games were coming out. And I remember watching that trailer, and I was like, fuck, am I gonna like God of War? And by God, it's one of my favorite series now. Like I've gone back and played the games; they're awesome. But that was such like a heel turn moment for me specifically because when I saw that trailer come out, and there was just something so special about it, and I knew
I was losing my mind on that one, man.
I knew the history behind the character, and seeing that flip happen where all of a sudden he's a mature character and everybody just like, we're mature now, we're ready. It was like there. I feel like E3 is really good at like capturing an emotion from like the majority of like the video game audience, and that's why it's so special.
Yeah, that one was great too because that's one I remember exactly where I was. Like my dad was in town because his birthday was around that time. He was born in June, and so it's like I had my brother there. We were watching it like on my phone, right? And I'm just popping off at this new like God of War, and they had gameplay there. Like I said, yeah, I was like, wow, the gameplay looks so different. This is so cool. And I also just remember like going to bat online where people were like, it doesn't look like God of War anymore. I was like, well, if you watch the animations, it's just a new perspective, right? Like it was just that was a really, really cool one. I love that one a ton.
But then we get it, I think it ended with the Spider-Man reveal.
Yes.
With that, and like that was actual gameplay too, which we didn't know at the time.
That like blew everybody's mind. Like this isn't real. There's no gameplay. It was all CGI. It was all cinematics, and then we play the game, and like some of it is like kind of cutscenes,
like
stuff.
QTEs, but like
it's like all in-game shit.
Like nope, it was in the game. You played it. Yeah, it wasn't made for that for that thing. It's in the game, which was awesome. Speaking of Spider-Man and E3, they had like a full gameplay trailer the year after. And then do you remember when the game came out and people were mad that the puddles weren't as detailed as they were at E3?
And Digital Foundry had to like come and like save the day and be like, hey, motherfuckers, like you guys are harping on the wrong thing. It's actually technically better than what it was in that trailer.
Yep.
Oh yeah, because and like I remember a bunch of the art team like coming out on Twitter and be like, no, we just relocated those assets. Like the puddles still exist.
Yeah.
They're like, we just don't have as many in that spot. Like
we realized it was a really wet construction zone and probably was not OSHA sanctioned.
Not the code, yeah.
I do love though how like ceremonial E3 got to like pre-COVID, right? Like I think of again like I mentioned previously. So it was the year that we got I believe gameplay trailers for both Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, and Sony was like, if we're doing this, we're doing this. And so they like recreated the bar that that they have the whole dance
for the press conference
at the beginning of the game. Yeah, it's you brought the legendary dude like sitting on a pillow like playing the flute with that sick like wraparound LED wall with the gameplay behind him. Like that shit was fucking awesome. Hilariously over the top, and probably part of the reason that E3 doesn't exist anymore, but so cool.
E3 wasn't. That was Sony was paying for that. Like, and I'm pretty sure that was like Sony anyway.
Well, no, that's the reason, because like they kept having to try to outdo themselves every year. They did that. And it's like, we don't have the money for that.
Yeah,
we can't do that.
We can't outdo that.
Yeah.
I just had one more like really great moment just off the top of my head though too, as a big like Jedi Fallen Order fan. Do you guys remember? I think this was the last year that EA was at E3 before they started doing their own thing. Before they started doing EA Play was Andrea Renee was hosting.
Oh yeah.
And they had the Respawn devs there, and they bring one up and they're like, hey, so we know that you guys are working on a new Star Wars game. Like, what can you tell us about it? And they go, I can tell you the name. It's Jedi Fallen Order. And he just stops, and Andrew Renee just kind of looks at you and just goes, okay, then. Because he can't say anything else. He's like, yeah, I can tell you the name.
And Andrew and Renee, like, I just remember, she's the best, period. Like, I love her.
Consummate professional. So good.
It was, her reaction was so like perfect for that, and like anyway.
You can read on her face. She's like, "That's all you got for me."
Yeah, come on, give me something.
She's like, "All right, moving on, I guess."
Don't you know good improv? No, you're a video game developer.
So good, man. I'm gonna miss E3.
Yeah, but I do think that this kind of brings me to something that I was thinking about, is I feel like with the problems E3 has had in the last little while, namely like with the doxing of creators or of journalists and the like, and banning people that shouldn't be banned, I think there's an overall...
Getting kicked out.
Yeah, I think there's an overall not distrust, but kind of people are over E3 right now, and I do think
kind
that
of a bad taste.
Yeah, there is. That's a good way to put it. I think Geoff Keighley has been only bringing the yum yums to us, right? Like even if there's not a lot, he still gives us something to eat. And he hasn't had those issues. Like the biggest problem he's had is some like 19-year-old claimed to be Bill Clinton, and like that I don't think like that was bad for the show by any
Kids
means.
everywhere nowadays too. Have you seen all those videos? Dude has fast travel. I can't explain it. He was just at WrestleMania last night.
But
I do think that Geoff Keighley has I think managed to thread the needle of where E3 was going wrong, to where it was like E3 after a while started transitioning from a trade show to a consumer show, right? And it became less about the devs and the press and more about the attendance, right? Like getting people that like non-industry people
almost becoming
and experiencing it. Yeah, it became it wasn't a trade show anymore. And Keighley has done this thing to where you have both the attendance side of things, right? So because it's an online show now, you can watch it at home or with friends or wherever. But there is still like the in-person trade show aspect of it, where all these devs are together. They get to talk with press and do all those things. It does kind of feel like the best of both worlds.
I think that a lot of devs have started to trust him more because he does allow the developers to kind of be a person and be a personality. You look at I forget the man's name, but the lead developer on It Takes Two, like he is now like a prominent member in the video game. Yeah, like that.
Yeah, Joseph Ferris.
Joseph Ferris. You look at Miyazaki and all these people. And you look at From Software specifically, this is one that really hits home because this is usually the only announcement I give a shit about. And I was like kind of going through the Rolodex in my head, and all of the biggest announcements for that company specifically have been kind of more happening at his stuff as opposed to E3. And then you look at the big, the big companies like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, and they're not necessarily like Sony's not playing by E3's rules anymore. They still like have a thing, but they're not there. And I'm thinking that just subtly is sending messages to the video game consumers to like shift their focus over to Geoff, which I don't think is a bad thing, because I do think him paying the respect to developers is why the developers trust him. And I do think that those respects are owed. I think that our one Greg Miller kind of started a trend thanking Melissa Tran, was that her name? The graphic artist on the Tomb Raider game, that during his acceptance speech he specifically called out her and a couple other people for their work on the game. And I feel like that kind of shifted a lot of stuff into more paying attention to these people, and I think that's when we start getting a lot of changes in development cycles and crunch. Kind of an off-topic weird thing to say about E3, but I think I've just been really kind of searching in my own head, theorizing why Geoff has kind of rose to power. I mean, he's a student of the game. He's been around since like 2002, but
yeah.
Well, even that, but like, there's always the thing of companies and publishers can't have their own showcase because, like I said, games are becoming increasingly hard to develop for, and it takes longer, more time, more money, and they can't have things ready for a showcase where they have 20 different games to show off. So if you can just show off like a couple and go to Geoff Keighley and be like, hey, we can be a part of this, and here's a game or two to show you, for your stuff.
Yeah. And I don't think he pushes like E3 does. I think he's very much like, do you have anything for me? Could you have anything ready? If not, that's fine. And I don't think he pushes. I do think he goes out and hunts for things, and kind of, I've seen him at a lot of development studios testing stuff out, and he seems to have a much deeper dialogue with these developers than maybe the is it ESRB that runs E3? I forget who runs E3.
ESA.
The ESA. Like, I don't think that they were doing that and really making those connections with the developers like he is. Because he tweets about like playing games that are in active development and like getting hype for them ready.
Yeah. And I think another sort of like positive aspect of everything being like a little more spread out, like as much fun and as hype as it is to have like one sort of like central event where everything happens, like stuff gets buried in that sort of news, right? Like like we're even us going over like these huge like announcements, like we're talking about like the Smash Ultimate from that year, or God of War and Spider-Man. We didn't mention anything else that came out because those are the things that we really remember about those events. But now Sony has their own thing, Microsoft has their own thing, EA's got theirs, Sega just pulled out of E3, which is hilarious, like right before it died. But
Sega was the final straw.
even yeah, Sega was what broke E3
right before Sonic died.
He killed E3 and then Sonic. So with like even the Summer Game Fest itself has like opening day, and that's where you have all these big announcements. So you have like the 2-hour live stream and everything, but then it goes on for like a month. You know, there's still more stuff past that. It's not all like this is the event and then it's over. It's with stuff spread out like that. I think it allows for these games to get more coverage and get more talked about it. Like it's better for just about everybody, like to be able to have that space where devs can show off their games and people can actually see them, and it doesn't get buried by like the huge AAA games that also inevitably get announced, right? But at the same time, we still have like kind of lost like having this like one momentous thing that happens every year. It's again at the beginning of the video I said I was sad. I'm sad because I never got to attend E3. Like I'd always wanted to be there physically and experience that at least once, and even if it's for a dumb podcast that I make on the internet, right? Like just be there in some capacity, and that was a goal here. Like Josh and I were already talking about like next year E3 we're doing it. We're gonna go out. We're gonna make this dumb video, and yeah, all right, R.I.P. the dream. But
so is it like done forever? Because I thought it was just canceled for this year.
Dude, I mean, if Sega, Microsoft, Sony,
Nintendo,
EA, Nintendo, like if no one's there,
that's fair.
Like, because like that's something I happened to guest on another podcast just before we recorded this one, and we were just talking about how like I'm sure there's like contracts and stuff for this convention center, like probably some major cancellation fees and all that, like would go through with a bad E3 and get some bad publicity because like, oh, there's nothing here, there's nobody here, nothing substantial, and then or pay all these fees and just cut it now and just get out now.
So do we think that they will restructure and try to come back hitting next year, or do we think that like this is the final no? Because they did cancel last year, canceling this year. Because I assumed when people said that they were pulling out of this year or pulling out, I thought it just was of this year. I didn't know that it was like a blanket statement, like we will no longer be going to this conference.
Well, I think it was just for this year, but like there's been interviews with the head of the ESA, and they were saying no comment or no answers to some of these questions, but at the same time, by not answering,
you're answering.
It's almost you're answering.
Yeah,
like they're. In my mind, it's like everybody's having their digital showcases because having a physical booth and like all these live showcases in these gigantic theaters is just getting way too expensive.
Yeah, and you look at some of these games as booths on the E3 show floor, and it's like, why you made this for this?
Statues of characters for photo ops and stuff. Like paying cosplayers to come out dressed as your characters.
The Dark Souls 3 one is the one that I find the craziest, where it's just spurting blood 24/7, like into a fountain. Like, do you remember what? Like, it's the.
I do remember that. Yeah,
it's just like, damn, like, what the fuck are y'all spending your money on?
Right, but then it's like that's the thing.
Hear that everybody's for all day.
Yeah, but you have all these online showcases, but then you have stuff like PAX and Comic-Con. It's like, is an E3 where the ESA, like you were saying, that the ESA is not quite as connected to these publishers, developers. Is E3 really needed anymore?
Yeah. It kind of feels like yeah, we sort of outgrew it, right?
Yeah.
Like Keighley saw that writing on the wall, 4 or 5 years ago, and he's just like, I'm out. You guys aren't taking us in a direction.
I do feel like conventions in general, just because of the pandy and everything, have kind of, like, you look at RTX, you look at the PAX East just happened, and I had no fucking idea. I usually see tweets out the ass of all my internet friends going to PAX specifically, And PAX East was always a big one, I feel like, and I didn't see nearly as many people going to that or RTX last year. I don't see the hype for it. I don't mean to disparage these companies. I'm just talking about conventions as a thing. And for me,
RTX is a very specific reason for that.
Yeah, I'm trying to be nice, but I also agree. I do think that for me, I also had the dream of like wanting to go to E3 constantly. Like now my dream has definitely shifted to going to the Game Awards, because that is starting to feel more like the Oscars of games, and I do feel like that's a good place to meet people and like just, I don't know, have good conversations. Yeah, and
right, but still has that same opportunity that I think that E3 provided, and even Summer Game Show has like an in-person event for day one, to where it's like you can get that networking done. You can go meet devs for these events and things. You can meet other creators and talk to press and do all of those things. But it's still like primarily an online thing though too, that consumers can participate with at home.
Yeah, I do want real quick.
Oh yeah.
PlayStation, just bring back PSX for the love of God, please.
Oh yeah,
like,
dude.
Please, come on. E3's gone. Just have a little PSX during the E3 time, during the Summer Game Showcase. Let us come and do our shit there, please. For the love of God. I am so sad I never got to go to a PSX, and I want to so bad.
Same.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Alec. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. No, I was just mentioning, like, the cool thing with Summer Games Fest is like he puts out, like, there's even some games he actually puts out demos for. Like he has like on the website or Steam, there's a page section, like wish list stuff, demo it.
Dark in my room. I'm gonna go turn my light on.
Do you remember when demos started going the way of the dodo, and like we didn't get demos for like a good 10 years, and now demos are starting to become a thing? Like
it's just a great way
to Steam Next Fest and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Steam Next Fest. That's how I've added so many games because of Steam. I know that's kind of a completely different thing, but just like the fact of demos, getting people to actually get hands on your games.
Yeah.
And actually it's a shift to the all digital future though, right? To where to be able to show off a game at like Summer Game Fest, RIP E3, and then be like, hey, you can play it right now. Like this is like this thing we just showed you playable. You can do it. It's so cool.
I forget the Until Dawn. What was the new one from that video game developer?
The Quarry.
Their demos are like, a quick aside note, are the freaking best, because I've been talking my family into playing this game with me, and I got to demo all of their games through the online store, and we got to decide the one that we wanted to play, and we played through it. Had we gone with the Quarry, that wasn't the one we ended up choosing. We ended up going with Until Dawn. But having that opportunity to like see an actual trailer and like get to play like the first 45 minutes was, I think is very, with how the economy is going and people really, savoring their dollars and needing to know what they're spending it on before they purchase it, I think it's incredibly wise of these companies to keep doing it. And I do think Geoff is a key part of why that's happening now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I really like to kind of being like, it's like, with E3 Comic Con, I've shifted the goal, I've shifted my dream. I'm just putting this out there to manifest it though, right? Ever since EA Play first came along, the very first EA Play, they showed off and had people play Battlefront 2. And so now I'm like, I'm getting to an EA Play someday so I can go play a new Star Wars game before it comes out. That and cover it here on This Is the Waypoint. That's the goal. Manifesting.
Hell yeah.
It'll happen.
For Jedi Survivor 2. Or the third Fallen Order game.
They just had their press event too, and I was like, I should have done more work to try and get us under the creator event.
Hey man, we know they're gonna make a third one. Yeah,
someday though, someday Shared Screens is going to a video game press event. Mark my words. Save this, record it, tweet it at me in like 5 years. All right.
Yeah, I feel like we all have.
If Twitter's still around, blue sky me in like 5 years.
One moment. Oh my god! Shut up! Sorry. So I do have one quick question to pose to you guys. With E3 gone, I feel like we all kind of had a certain game franchise or a certain type of game that we wanted to preview from E3. I have a feeling Chris is with Star Wars. Alec, what is yours?
I do have a different answer, actually.
Okay, let's hear it.
But go Alec first.
I mean, Zelda, like that is my franchise.
Hell yeah!
Like,
I cannot.
I'm so hyped for Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I took that day off. Like, I got launch day off, so I'm like, if you need me that day, I'll be in Hyrule.
Hell yeah. I do love. What's yours, Chris?
So, I mean, I'm gonna take out the answer of like a AAA Star Wars game because we just talked about that. It's someday, but I mean, yeah, like having the opportunity to play like Battlefront or Jedi Fallen Order like that would be amazing. But genuinely, like Halo is the big one, right? Because we were talking about some of our favorite like E3 reveals earlier. Halo 2 was one of mine when they first showed off Halo 2. They had a completely different gameplay demo that they showed off that is not in the final game at all. It just doesn't exist.
Is that the trailer? I bet you can't stick him.
It was that same year. Yeah,
okay,
but you can't stick it.
Yeah,
and then they showed off another like gameplay trailer that's wildly different from the final game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember like in the years like following following Halo 2, it was there were I remember like Game Informer again specifically an article coming out. I was like, hey, we were at E3, we got to play Halo 2 multiplayer for the first time, and that might have been the issue to where I was just like, yeah, I want to do this, and I was like, Mom, I want to write for a video games magazine someday. And my parents are like, no, you don't. And I was like,
that's not a job.
And I went, fair, okay, but yeah, I think Halo would be the big one. What about you, Chance?
It's the same answer I give for everything. Like a From Software.
Software.
I specifically like a Sekiro or a Bloodborne. Like that. If I was able to get like an early copy or preview, that is like the pie in the sky, just because of how kind of close that community is and how few people actually get access. I look at people like Timur and Andy, and I really got a new respect for them actually when I already had an insane amount of respect for Timur and his journalism chops, but when Andy got it, I was like, all right, this is now like he's a very good content creator, but it kind of made it a little bit more reachable, because Timur to me is like God status when it comes to video game journalism. Andy is a little bit more like a regular person like us, and so anyway, I think getting to preview one of those games and not have the internet spoiling stuff for me on Twitter and like actually getting to like figure it out and write about it would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be so much fun. EA Star Wars, I'm begging you.
Yeah.
I want to do it. I want to come out and make stuff about your games. I will be so nice.
Do you remember when Jack P from Achievement Hunter was playing Battlefront 2 like in the pit that one year when they had Janina Gavankar?
Oh yeah,
that one even was one of my favorite ones, because that was the year that Rooster Teeth did like 24/7 coverage on E3. Like they live streamed the whole thing. They had like couches in a space like on the show floor, and that was because both Bernie and Jack Patillo were there for the Battlefront event, and I think a bunch of the Funhouse guys were there too.
Yeah.
But Bernie talked about how Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa were also there for the Battlefront. They're big gamers.
Yeah.
And it was like on a podcast like weeks later, Bernie talked about how it was like the contact high that I got was unreal. And so if you go back and watch that E3 coverage, there's a bit where Bernie Burns just walks onto their stage, grabs all of their red vines, and then walks off. Because he was just high off his ass and he's so hungry.
I've heard stories about those two, and that'd be amazing. Sorry.
Yeah, it would be incredible. Yeah. I want to do that too. If whatever Star Wars event I go to, please have Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg there, please. Be so fun.
This has been a fun time reminiscing about some of our E3 memories. Like, it's sad to see it go, but it's clearly in good hands with Geoff Keighley. You know, he's got the good 1-2 punch of Game Awards and then Summer Games Fest. So we're in good hands.
Yeah. E3 is dead. Long live Summer Game Fest.
The king is dead. Long live the queen.
Exactly.
Our mommy's gonna take care of us. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. Oh yeah. So with that, we're gonna say goodbye. Before we go, make sure to check out our Resident 4 remake review. I know Chris was on that.
It's a very good game.
Very good game. Very good.
Very
review.
good podcast.
And yeah, starts off with a bit of a pop.
Yeah.
And
make sure to check out his Mando coverage too. This is the Waypoint.
Yes.
Every Thursday morning.
Yes. And with that, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.